there would be specific things that we could do differently and better, giving a better view of clients based on their financial data or market or key audience and all of those things. So it's an interesting thing to watch, this collaboration between London Stock Exchange. And notice it's the London Stock Exchange, not the United States Stock Exchange. So yeah, interesting there because there's more regulations actually in Europe than we have in the US right now. So that's an interesting story to keep an eye on. Microsoft Copilot is already got a fall release sort of in a beta to specific groups. But basically what it entails are things that make it more team collaborative, which I think you definitely need on any tools that you use. But Copilot is releasing a group chat for up to 32 people. There's also some additional AI built in to things that you're working on, research that you're doing, and even insights that would be suggested based on your recent activity, which is interesting. If you have Copilot in your business, I would definitely say to try out these features and see what it does. And also, I would say if you're going to be using these at a high scale or with a group of 32 plus people or more, to bring in a trainer. And by the way, we are Microsoft partners now too, so we can help with that. And then in the health area, this is interesting. So we've been reporting on different AI stories in the health sector, in our newsletter every week. But this is interesting because where they're not seeing like a financial ROI, they are seeing a huge, well, I don't know about huge, but they are seeing an uptick in operations and satisfaction metrics. So there are things immediately, and like we suggest with all of our implementation, start with the things that take the most time, start with the things that have the bottlenecks. And so bed management and documentations are the two areas that they're already seeing ROI in, and not necessarily, or they may or may not be seeing in the financial area, but like they aren't able to track that yet. But what they are able to see immediately is that AI is helping them in the areas of documentation and bed management, which is great. That makes it a better experience for the patients. And then I'm sure relieves some stress on admin and some of the people at the hospital level too. And then we asked some interesting questions. Do you trust AI in healthcare? Would you like an AI doctor? For me personally, I've used AI in my own medical, and again, you always have to think about your settings, security, all of those things, and the information you're putting into AI. But I've done things recently, like taking blood results, putting it into chat or other tool and asking for insights based on those. I think the important thing to note here is that AI can help these doctors. No doctor, no person knows everything. And if they can have these tools helping them, wouldn't you want a doctor that is enabled with additional information versus a doctor that is not? So that's the way I look at it. It's a question to ask yourself, but a question everybody should be asking themselves because this is starting to appear everywhere, no matter what kind of insurance or healthcare you have. And then the next story is MIT and IBM. And this one was interesting to me. I had to read into this one more, but it has to do with the article itself, which is linked in our newsletter. You can click on that, which I did because I needed some more insight into what actually the importance was. And there's a lot of information and studies. That's why IBM and MIT are collaborating on this to build AI tools and systems that actually make a difference. So the biggest takeaway I got from this was that they are finding that you don't always need the biggest, best, the model that has like infinity amount of information. Having smaller, leaner, more information, more tuned into what you're trying to do is proving to have better results. But in that, I think you could also assume that it's going to take less power and less of the energy to power these smaller, more leaner types of systems. Um, the thing that I highlighted in the article, that there are large foundation models are giving way to smaller, more task specific models, yielding better performance. So you don't give the system time or the area to get off guard or off the rails, as we say. It keeps them more, if you're trying to do a sales type of operation or model, you can train it just on sales. You don't have to train it on marketing, sales, accounting, all the things. You keep it strictly for that workflow or process. So it's interesting, when we started, it was like all about the biggest and the best and fastest. And I kind of compare it to when we have prompts. So in the beginning, everybody wanted like the ultimate prompt, and then prompts started like segmenting into smaller, more specific prompts. And that's where I think now we're looking at these huge models, and are they really necessary for what people are using them for? And is the accuracy better if you're just using a scaled down model only trained on what you're trying to do? So it's kind of an interesting thing that we're already in this area of studying models and studying, what is more efficient and not, when, 2 years ago, we didn't even have any of this. So it's interesting. We're getting on the side of researching of it. And then there was some more AI regulation here in the US. So this has to do with using AI for chatbots and other things on your site or in your business. So it really sheds a light on having to have more, like a tighter internal AI use policy, um, explaining that you're using AI for things like chatbots, um, and other things internally. So if your people, your employees are using AI, being transparent about that. Also determining for your people, interns, regular employees, all of them, what models they should be using for what tasks, and what even types of tools they should be using for each task. But it's prompting tighter internal policies. And we have an internal policy on our website that you can see an example of. But even that, I'm sure, because that was created maybe a year, maybe a little bit more ago, that we will probably need to revisit that. But it's interesting now that they're wanting to know exactly what has been approved by companies. And as most of us know, at least internally here, is one of the things we do is we teach teams how to use the tools and what tools they should use. But before they get that training, most of them are using all different tools. And so this is going to be one of those, it looks like our cookies messaging on websites are probably going to get longer and include things that have more to do with AI than cookies. So something definitely to watch in this regulation area. And then our tool spotlight this week is Heygen, which we've been using like crazy. I think for our recent content plan for November, we have somewhere upwards of like 40 plus videos we have created with Heygen. And you can use these for reading your blog, for explaining tidbits of information. There's so many uses for that, but we are using that to publish on all our socials, YouTube, Pinterest. But it's a really great tool. And in our spotlight this week, we teach you how to do a specific thing inside the program where you can add buttons, captions, you can create video within there. If you don't have your own video, they even have Sora integrated inside of Heygen now. So there's a bunch of things, and we do give a quick start and a little step-by-step on how to do some of the latest things. And then tools to try this week. I already mentioned Suno, which of course is integrated into Heygen now, but that's a really great video generation tool. So there's a bunch of different ways to use it. This, in the simplest form, it's a text to video tool. So you could say a dog running down the street, with a bone in its mouth, and you can get results just from that. Of course, if you're using this for business, you may need to determine other factors or a more detailed prompt, but it's a really cool tool. I recommend trying that out. And that's by OpenAI. OpenForge is one we've really gotten into lately, especially in the area of AIO, GEO, AI SEO. It just depends on what you call it. But it helps you get found by AI, meaning when someone types something into ChatGPT, that the information that gets delivered is from your website. So exactly, well, not exactly. It's similar to how you used to use SEO to get found in Google searches, but this is now specifically for AI. So there's a little bit, it's the same idea, but there's a few extra steps you have to take. And OpenForge is really amazing on tracking your own and competitors' efforts in this way. So there's keywords, there's questions people are asking. You can track other competitors' citations. It's a really great tool, and we are really just like pouring everything into that. And then the last tool is Pictory, which we've used for quite a while. And it's one of those tools that's really easy to use, where you can take a long video or a video of however many minutes, long to you could be 5 minutes, and it will cut it into different snippets. You could also use it to edit videos. But yeah, it's a really intuitive, easy to use tool. And there's a link for that in our newsletter too. So yeah, if you have any questions, comments, or other AI stories you'd like us to talk about, you can just comment on the newsletter. You can email us info@AISmartVentures. And that's this week's news.